I discovered that my wife is deceiving me, but she and Josh don't know that I know. Josh, generally speaking, it is or has been my closest friend. I know it's a common story, but they become common because they happen too often. I don't know how to confront this situation. The problem is, I can't understand why he has my wife. Don't get me wrong, my wife is certainly a beauty. She is in her 30s, and even after 2 kids, she still looks unexpectedly sexy in a bikini. But his wife, Carla, is equally beautiful, even sexier. Carla is tall, 5 feet 7 inches, with long red hair down to her lower back and green eyes that seem to see deep into the soul. I know her measurements are 36 to 23-34, and I can't deny that she intrigues me. After learning about Josh and Heather, I did nothing for weeks, trying to decide what to do. I love Heather and wonder if there's a way to save our marriage. It seems unlikely, but I can't be sure until we talk. On Friday, I decided to meet her, but had to postpone until Monday. Why wait for 2 days? Because my wife received a call from a sick friend in urgent need of help, and she rushed to assist. I have no doubt that if I called Josh and asked him to play golf on Saturday, Carla would come and tell me that Josh is not at home and has gone somewhere for the weekend. My parents took the kids to their lake house, so being away from wife and kids means I'll have a peaceful weekend alone, possibly the last peaceful weekend I'll have. On the way home, I stopped, bought a case of beer, and decided that by Sunday, all 24 bottles would be empty. When I got home, I put on sweatpants and a t-shirt and went to the kitchen. Dinner tonight would be simple. I opened a pack of sausages and let them cook, chopped onions, took a can of baked beans from the cupboard, poured them into a pan, put it on the stove, and opened a second beer. I was looking for mustard in the fridge when the doorbell rang. I opened the door and saw Carla standing there. She was wearing a tank top, seemingly without a bra, flip-flops on her feet, her nipples protruding through the t-shirt, and I immediately became more excited. "Are you busy?" she asked. "Partly. I'm cooking and having a beer." "Do you mind if I join?" "Not at all. I could use some company," I said, opening the door for her to come in. We went to the kitchen, and she sat down at the table. I knew she didn't drink beer, so I opened a bottle of Merlot and poured her a glass. "Dinner is nothing special," I said, "grilled sausages and baked beans. A simple meal, fitting for the situation." The sausages were simmering, and the baked beans were bubbling. So I turned off the stove and moved the pan to the cooler side, grabbed 2 plates from the cabinet, and handed one to Carla. She helped herself to 2 sausages and put some baked beans on her plate. We sat down to eat, and I asked, "Why are you here? Do you know where Heather is?" "She's helping a sick friend," Carla replied. "I wonder when this happened." "When did this happen?" I asked. "This is Josh's illness. He looked perfectly healthy when he left home. You know that Josh and Heather are deceiving us, right? And they are currently in room 130 at the Arrowhead Lodge. I don't know where they are, but for the past few weeks, I've known that she's deceiving me," I replied. "How do you know?" she asked. "I found a condom in his pants pocket when I was doing laundry. We are trying to conceive and not using condoms, but because he's having an affair, I decided not to have his child. I don't want to be a single mother if we divorce, so I used part of the inheritance from my father to hire a private detective. They often meet during long lunches, and when he calls and says he'll be working late, he's usually with Heather." "How do you know?" she continued to ask. "I was in the basement working on a bookshelf I was building. The phone rang, and I picked it up. Down in the basement, perhaps the phone on the second floor picked up a second earlier than mine, and I heard her speaking slowly on the phone with the term lover. As soon as I put the phone to my ear, I heard Josh saying that they would have to skip their usual long lunch at the Marriott because he has an important meeting. I had to listen to her saying they would miss each other, and he would have to work hard to make up for it next time." "And you didn't do anything?" she asked. "I just couldn't decide what to do at that moment. I decided to meet her when she comes home and see what happens next." So, what are you going to do? You'll understand in a few minutes. I looked at her with uncertainty. What do I understand? She stood up, walked over, and sat on my lap. I can see the way you look at me, and I know that if we're not married, you'll pursue me. We may still be married, but we're no longer obligated to be faithful to Josh and Heather. They have released us from that obligation. She hugged me and made me excited. I shifted to become more comfortable, looking at her in amazement. She leaned down, and her lips touched mine. Carla interrupted and said, "I'll get even though we've decided to have a baby." I found reasons not to engage in sexual relations during my ovulation period, just as a precaution. I went to the doctor and got a blood test, just to be safe. How far do you want to go with revenge on Josh? Why do you ask? I intend to carry out a full revenge. Right now, I am in my peak ovulation, and the blood test is in my wallet. What is that? Carla is right. It would be complete revenge if Josh raises my child, thinking it's his. I smirked while stroking Carla, realizing she wasn't wearing underwear. She moaned and whispered, "Oh yes." I stopped kissing and said, "To the right side of Heather's bed. That's where I want you." She got up from my lap and said, "Come on, let's quickly undress." When we reached the bedroom, Carla undressed, very impressive, and she had something I had never seen before, except in men's magazines. She was completely shaved. I've said before that Heather is a beauty, but why would Josh want to be with my wife when he has a woman like Carla is beyond my comprehension. Carla seems to be thinking in the same direction. She looks at my naked body with confusion, and when I ask her what she's thinking, she replies, "I don't understand. Your manhood is infinitely superior to Josh's, so why would Heather want to be with my husband when she has you and this tool at home, ready to perform? I think it doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter. Right now, you're here, and the others don't exist in this moment. You're right. Take me to bed and make me yours." I pointed to Heather's side, and Carla smiled and said, "Take me to the right side of Heather's bed. Then we'll go to my room, and I'll take you to the right side of Josh's bed." Agreed. She lay down on the bed and demanded vigorous sex. I did what she requested, and she moaned as we pursued each other like two animals in the heat of passion. She begged me not to stop and to continue indefinitely. Her words drove me wild, and I wanted to do everything for her. Both of us reached the climax, and it was truly seductive. We were both sweating, and I fell onto the bed beside her. Carla leaned her head on her arm and looked down at me. "I can't believe this. I just can't believe that Heather can do that. But she wants my husband. You and I still have the whole evening, all day tomorrow, and part of Sunday. And when we're done, you won't care if Heather comes home after taking a little break." After a rest, we played round 2, and it was just as enticing as the first. Carla asked, "You won't chase me home, will you, silly?" I said, pulling her towards me. We actually shared a bed. This morning, I woke up before Carla and looked at her. I couldn't help but think that my betrayal to Josh's wife had put me on the same level as Heather. Of course, this could be blamed on Heather's betrayal, which released me from my own vows. What she did, I could do too, right? Most importantly, I had betrayed my marriage. I couldn't pretend to be a morally superior person in conflict with Heather. Yes, she didn't know that I had betrayed her, but I knew it. I didn't pay attention to Carla until she said, "You seem to be thinking a lot. What are you thinking?" I told her, and she responded, "I made promises just like you when I married Josh, so I guess that makes me a liar too." But I don't think so. Josh made promises like me and then broke them. For me, this means we had a contract, and if we follow the law, if I remember correctly from my business law classes, Josh violated the contract, and the contract could be declared void. I know marriage isn't handled that way, but this doesn't change the fact that Josh and I had a contract, and he broke it with me. This means, at least for me, I'm no longer obliged to respect it. You should look at your marriage in a similar way. You're not deceiving your lover. You're just doing what her contract violation allows you to do. Enough about this. Let's nurture me. And then we should go to my house and respect the bed where Josh slept. And we should try to get me pregnant. She began to excite me. And then we started to act. If she doesn't get pregnant after we spend the night at her house, it's not because we didn't try hard enough. The next morning, she asked when the child would be home, and I replied that it would be around 6 p.m. She served me breakfast with beef and eggs, saying that I would need energy if I wanted to do something nice for her later in the day. We parted ways around 4 p.m., so I could go home and be there in case my parents arrived earlier than expected. Before I left, Carla asked if I had made a decision, and I admitted that I hadn't. Are you good enough to pretend everything is okay? I didn't know. Why is this necessary? Because in my view, the best revenge is to continue doing what we've been doing all weekend. I want to keep going until I get pregnant. Besides, you need to think about your child. Divorce will distance you from them, as the court always grants custody to the mother. You might have a chance to see them every weekend, but that will only happen if Heather isn't too angry with you to find reasons to keep you from them. My advice is to endure that, live as usual, except that you and I will have wild sexual encounters whenever we can. I doubt that, Carla. Sooner or later, the betrayals will be exposed. If they catch us, it will decrease the chances of maintaining a high level in any conflicts. We can catch them due to the foolish mistakes you discovered about Heather, as both of them are foolish enough to use landline phones to communicate. I know this because Josh is so careless that he brings evidence home in his pocket. We won't let such opportunities slip away. We'll buy some track phones at Walmart and use them to stay in touch and to keep our partners from accidentally discovering them. We'll leave them on our desks. We'll always know when they meet, and we'll schedule our encounters at the same time. No, we can't do that. If Heather calls and says she has to work late, I'll have to babysit. And if they do it at noon, we won't be able to do it because I rarely get a long lunch break. Don't you work late sometimes? When you do, she'll have to be home to take care of the kids. Every Wednesday, I play cards with some female friends from college in the evening, and sometimes stop for drinks after work with colleagues, and Josh is used to that. Another thing we can do is eavesdrop on our phone lines to find out what they're talking about. Are you sure you can do that? Have you thought of everything? Maybe I missed something, but if we work together, I think we can cover all aspects. Are you sure you want this? I'm completely sure. As I told you from the beginning, I want revenge on Josh. I gave him everything I had, and he stabbed me in the back. I pampered this bitch to death, and he cheated on me. There's no way I'll let it slide. The best revenge for me is to let him raise another man's child, and what's sweeter than having the father of that child, the husband of the woman he cheated with? I also want revenge. I think I can get revenge after seeing this wanderer raise my child, but I'm not sure I can pretend to be a loving husband to a wife who deceived me. You'll be thrilled by your lover for the past 48 hours, right? You seem to really enjoy what I bring. You can have as many sexual relationships as you want, anytime, and for as long as you want with me. You know that an offer like this is really hard to refuse. I hope so, and that's not all. Josh wants 2 children, a boy and a girl, and I want both to have the same father. But if the first child is a girl, he'll want a boy. Are you ready to continue trying? Yes, until we get caught. We just need to make sure that doesn't happen. Right, and one last thing. Can you act naturally around Josh? It'll be hard not to smirk knowing that I'll be trying my best to give him a child to raise, but I think I can handle it. I think I'll stay late working with the girls on Tuesdays, maybe run into him accidentally. On Tuesdays, I'll work late. My parents will have brought the kids by 6:30, saying they haven't eaten, so I'll take them to Mickey's, and not surprisingly, they'll want a happy meal after we finish eating and get home. Heather asks us where we've been and sternly says, "Why didn't you call me and ask if I wanted to have dinner with you? You didn't tell me when you'd be back. You didn't call me on your cell and say you were back." I respond as sternly as she does. She looks at me angrily and greets the kids, while Heather puts them to bed. I start researching. I learn how to tap phone lines with a voice recorder and decide to buy 1 or 2 on the way home from work. Tomorrow, I'll buy 2 to hedge not only on my route, but also on Josh's route. I'll have to call Carla and arrange everything. I notice that Heather doesn't take a bath before going to bed. Maybe she already took one before coming home, or maybe not. When Heather goes to sleep, I say I have a stomach problem and suggest we may have sex tomorrow. On Monday, at 3:20, my secretary tells me that Carla Marvis wants to see me, and I tell Shelley to let Carla in. Carla comes in, closes the door behind her, approaches me, and kisses me. Unfortunately, your secretary is sitting outside your door. If she wasn't there, I would have locked the door, and you could have had me right at your desk. If you can wait for 10 minutes, she'll be home. At 3:30, wow, I was just kidding, but I can easily kill 10 minutes. She opens her purse, takes out her cell phone, and hands it to me, saying she wrote her number in it. The plan for tomorrow is like this. At noon, I'll run to the Marriott and get a room. I chose the Marriott because to get to the rooms, you have to go inside and down a hallway with no exit door, so no one will see us going in. I'll call you and let you know the room number. I will finish work by 4:30 and head straight to my room. When you get there, go into a bar and have a drink. If someone recognizes you and sees you there, they'll think you just stopped for a drink on your way home. After having a drink, come to the room where I'll be waiting for you. So, how does that sound? It sounds like a great plan. On the way home, I'll stop to pick up the things we need for tapping the phones. When is convenient for me to come and do this? It's already done. I went online and learned how to do it and got a recorder I can use. Right then, Shelley stuck her head in the door and said, "I'm heading out. See you in the morning." When the door closed, Carla got up to lock it. It was a quick, uncomplicated encounter, and we both reached climax. She said this would keep her going until tomorrow, but you should come back prepared for a long and vigorous evening. Maybe you should take some extra vitamins on your way home. I stopped at a Radio Shack and bought 2 recorders and 6 extra cassette tapes. I brought the second recorder to listen to the recordings in my office. I'll keep the tapes containing information about the 2 affairs until the day I tell the judge the reason for the divorce. When I got home, Heather had prepared dinner and brought wine, which was a good sign that she was in a loving mood. I was surprised by this. She had spent the weekend having sex with her lover, and now she came home wanting more. Is she a nymphomaniac, or is she simply enjoying the foolishness of her husband as she thinks about it? After dinner, and putting the kids in front of the electronic babysitter, Heather said, "You know you have plans tonight, right? About that. Why? You need to make up for what you missed last night. I'll do everything in my power. You always surprise me, my love." I wanted to say at that moment why she cheated on Josh, but I kept silent while Heather read books to the kids. I went down to the basement, found the phone line, and connected the recorder. Heather didn't go to work until an hour after I left, and I think that's when she and Josh will talk. I might be wrong because Heather has a mobile phone, and of course, they could talk on the office phone when she's at work. I bet the call I overheard is a sign that they talk when she's at home. We did that 3 times that night, which is unusual for us. We usually have sex 3 or 4 times a week, but often climax only once, though sometimes twice. Hey, there's one more thing to consider. The alarm went off right after our 3rd encounter. We were lying next to each other when Heather said, "Have you thought about us having another child?" "Not really," I said, wondering if this had anything to do with Josh. "Actually, I'm thinking about you getting a vasectomy so I can stop taking the pill and still be safe. Why don't you want more children?" We had Mike and Anna too soon after the wedding, with no chance to go anywhere and see the world. Now we're still young enough to do that. When Mike and Anna become independent, a child will relieve us of this. Besides, at this point, we need income from your job. And if you quit due to pregnancy, we'll be affected. I'll be hurt when you stop working because of pregnancy. I have some very bad thoughts going through my mind, and I'm sure Heather knows that Carla and Josh have decided to try to get pregnant. Does Heather want to have Josh's first child before Carla does, or is it something Heather dislikes about Carla, or is Heather just trying to assert ownership over her lover? Anyway, this makes me think I can't go through with Carla's plan. I think I'll have to leave Heather quite early. And then a very, very bad thought pops into my head. Are Mike and Anna really my children? I have to find out about this. I fell into a very restless sleep. The next day, after a tiring day at room 202 of the Marriott Hotel, I expressed my concerns to Carla. I can't even imagine what to do. Carla said, should you talk to her about Josh right now, before she gets pregnant? Of course, she might already be pregnant and ready to throw the baby at me. I know what you would do, but I'm not a man. And I'm not you. What would you do? I would just tell her that I don't want any more children. And to make sure, I'll use condoms until I get a vasectomy. If she's pregnant, that's when I'll have to face the issue. I'll say that we might need a DNA test to know if it's mine or Josh's. This will drive her crazy, and if I get a vasectomy, our revenge plan will be ruined. Don't do this until I get pregnant. If you do it earlier, it will fail because I want all my children to have the same father. Maybe we'll be lucky. Maybe Heather just wants to check on you. And if you say no, she'll say no. We'll never know until she comes and tells you she's pregnant. She looks at the clock and says, we still have a few more chances for you to make me a mother. I stopped on my way home and bought a pack of condoms. That night, when Heather wanted to have sex, I took out a condom and started putting it on. Why are you doing that? I decided to use them until I undergo a vasectomy. I really don't want any more children. Take it off. I hate this feeling. I'll keep using the pill and spermicidal gel until I adjust to the contraceptive cup. That way, we'll be completely safe. She hates that feeling, I thought as I finished putting it on. Heather was a virgin when we got married, and I had never used a condom with her. When did she realize she didn't like that feeling, and with whom? Anyway, this only increased my determination to find out about the father of my 2 children. Then I remembered that Carla figured out Josh deceived her because he used a condom when having sex with Heather. I was still planning to check. If you don't have spermicidal gel yet, I'll use the condoms I bought today. I don't have it yet, but I'll buy it tomorrow and schedule an appointment with the doctor to discuss the contraceptive cup. I don't want you to have a vasectomy. I want to keep this option open in case you change your mind. I took off the condom and got into bed. We had sex, and after finishing, I went to the bathroom. When I returned to bed, Heather was lying on her side and asleep. It was time to go down to the basement and check the recording device. Some unimportant calls, then good morning, my love. Do you remember me? Can we meet at lunchtime today? Okay, but I think our lunchtime meetings will end soon if we can't find a cheaper place. These hotel rooms are damaging my family's budget. I can't keep withdrawing money from there. Sooner or later, I won't have enough money to support my family, and I'll understand why. I'll try to come up with a solution this Wednesday night. In this paragraph, he used vulgar language to refer to Carla, who organized a poker party. Have you figured out a way to leave the house? Not yet, but I'm trying to. I'll flip a coin for luck. I need more from you than what I get during a 45-minute lunch break. Same here, darling. We'll talk tomorrow for sure. Goodbye, my love. I almost vomited when I realized I was with Heather after she let Josh use her this afternoon, but I kept myself together. It's interesting that my dishonest wife not only deceived me but also paid for the hotel room. Yes, and how will Carla react when she hears her husband calling her with obscene language? The only thing I knew for sure as I climbed the stairs down to the basement is that Heather wouldn't be able to leave the house this Wednesday night. On Tuesday, when I got to the company, I took the phone out of my desk drawer and called Carla. When she answered, I said, "Good morning." "Listen to this," I said, keeping the recording device close to the phone and pressing the play button. After listening to the recording and hearing the insults directed at her, she said. When the time comes, I'll kill this bastard. About the situation on Wednesday, what will you do? I think I'll have to work late on Wednesday, but I won't let her know until it's time to finish work. She doesn't have enough time to arrange for a babysitter. Did you hear? Heather pays for the room. This doesn't surprise me. Josh has always been tight-fisted. I think if you'll be working late, I'll skip my card game, and we can meet. I'll call you tomorrow and arrange everything for breakfast on Wednesday. Heather asked me on Wednesday morning if I had any plans for the evening. I said no and asked if anything special was happening. My colleagues were talking about going out for drinks and chatting after work. I can't do this if you're not looking after the babies. No problem. I kissed her and went to work. I went to the Marriott Hotel, rented a room, and when I got to the company, I called Carla. Heather finishes work at 5 p.m., so I called her at 4:40 and told her I would be working late. There are some issues to resolve with Henderson's contract before Nathan meets them tomorrow morning. Sorry for the late notice, but I really can't leave now, so don't wait for me. Love you. Goodbye. Tired but happy, I returned home when it was dark. Luckily, Heather was already asleep because if she had woken up and wanted to play, I wasn't sure if I could handle it in the next 5 weeks. Carla and I meet an average of twice a week, and we always know in advance what Josh and Heather are up to. By the 5th week, Carla said, "Congratulations, Dad. How about having sex with the baby's mom?" What does Josh think about this? He doesn't know. First, I need to inform the baby's father. Now I can talk to Josh. Do you know, I said, the only thing we haven't done is go on a weekend trip together. I think we should reward ourselves for getting pregnant at least once. We just need to do this without them connecting the dots and giving the correct answer. It seems today, when you talked about this, Josh will fly to San Diego to settle some issues with his father's property. He will meet some relatives this weekend before meeting the lawyer on Monday. If you can come up with a way for us to escape this weekend, we can go somewhere without anyone having to think about it. I think I can handle it. I took out my mobile phone and called my brother, who lives in Akron. I asked him to call me at home right after I leave for work in the morning and tell Heather that I need to visit him for a family matter over the weekend. I told him I would call later and explain everything. He said he would be concerned about this, and we said our goodbyes. I came back to Carla and said, now we just need to decide where we want to go. The next morning, Heather called me on my mobile phone about 5 minutes after I left home. She said, "You need to call Bill as soon as possible. He has a family emergency and needs to talk to you." I'll call her. I waited until I got to the office and called Bill. I told him that Brian, his son, needs a kidney transplant, and I want to know if he would agree to donate a kidney, and if so, if he would come in for compatibility testing. "So, what's it like?" I explained the situation to him, and he said he would help whenever I needed. I knew I could trust him because he hated people who cheated on their spouses. He is a single father because his wife cheated on him. He kicked her out of the house and lived with the child when Martha died in a car accident. I called Carla, let her know everything was fine, and we agreed to go on a weekend trip. I called Arrowhead Lodge and even managed to book a room for 1:30, which is very convenient for me. At 2:00, I called Heather and told her I would be flying to Akron. I'll go home and pack my things. My flight departs at 8:00, and I need to be there at least half an hour early for check-in. I don't want to sound selfish, but I hope your kidney will be a match. I need you to keep your entire body so we can grow old together. Dan, Heather, the way you say it makes me think you really love me. Never doubt that, Bob, not at all. If only you knew, I thought, said goodbye, and hung up. When I got home, Heather was waiting for me and wearing an outfit she called my love-making outfit, revealing and with high heels. "Do you have time to make me climax before you leave? Because really, I don't have to rush to catch a non-existent flight." I said that I still had time after having sex. Heather was lying on the bed, and as I dressed, she said, "On the phone, you speak as if you doubt that I love you." Just kidding. I know very well how you like to be loved. Of course, you can see that every time you betray me by having sex with Josh. I thought to myself, I don't want you ever to doubt that love. Never, Heather said. The weekend with Carla was a string of long days. We had sex and went to sleep, woke up in the morning, had sex again, and then had breakfast. We returned to the room and had sex until noon. We had lunch, and then we returned to the room and continued having sex. We went outside to sit by the pool for a while, and then returned to have sex again. We had dinner, had a few drinks and danced, then had sex again. Repeat the next day, and then again on Monday morning. We promised each other that we would do this again and then go back home. When I got home, Heather was at work, so I went downstairs and checked the recording system first. Bill called on Friday morning, and a few minutes after she hung up, Josh called her. Have you figured out a way for you to be free this weekend? I want to spend a few days with you without any interruptions. No, Josh, I haven't figured out anything. And really, I don't want to figure out anything at all. Why? Is there something wrong? I'm afraid you know, Josh. I feel guilty about what I'm doing. I love Bob, and he deserves a faithful wife rather than a deceitful one. I plan to tell him that it's time to stop. I need to spend time with Bob. Come on, Heather. You've been having sex with me for over a year. How can you do this? If you like me so much, why not continue? First, I need to correct you. I've never had sex with you. I only make love with you. The only man I truly love is Bob. Bullshit, Heather. No, Josh, not bullshit. I love this man and try to show that love every chance I get. If I really love Bob, why am I sleeping with you? The thrill of it. The excitement of doing something illegal and forbidden. It's a big experience for me to go home and make love to Bob after I've made love to you. It gives me great moments of ecstasy. Contributing a few wet seconds to you has certainly made you excited, hasn't it? If so, why not continue? I've never let you feel any trace of me. No, Josh, I'll end it before we get caught. I love Bob and don't want to lose him. It's just lucky that he gave me a drink the first time. Perhaps true, but I was never drunk in the subsequent times. It all depends on how you define drunk. I was infatuated with the thrill when having sex with Bob after he made love to me. Do you want to see if there's excitement and thrill if I do that? So you let me do it one more time, and that's the only reason why I continue. We've gone through over a year without being discovered, but I just realized that the feelings I have for Bob after being with you don't justify what I will have to pay if we get caught, and I lose Bob. Enjoy your time in California, Josh, and when you return home, don't call me. Goodbye. Interesting, I thought, then picked up the reel and put in a new one. I packed my bags and went to work. Around 11 a.m., I called Carla, and when I said hello, she said, I miss you. Is everything okay? I want you to hear something. If this is a phone call on Friday, then I've heard it. What do you think about it? She starts thinking with her head and realizes that she might lose you. What will you do? I've decided to stay with her until the kids are 18, and I don't see anything that would make me change my mind. Even if she tells Josh the truth, keeping her will be easier. But trust is lost, even if she breaks up with Josh and they never meet again. How do I know that somewhere in the future she won't feel the excitement and thrill of betraying and connecting with someone new? You can always impose this on her. If she's really done with Josh, maybe we can continue. But she won't get a second chance. Impossible. This would reveal that I'm eavesdropping on the call, and as I said, trust is lost. I need a way to monitor what she's doing. Besides, she understands me and knows that if I find out, I'll share it with you. She can tell Josh this, and it will make him think something we don't want. So is your way of hiding it to say we'll continue like this? You've heard the conversation. They've been out of it for over a year, but you and I only got out of it a few months ago. They owe us another 10 or 12 months, And then, of course, there are penalties and interest that could make it last longer. I want that. Carla and I continued to meet about twice a week until she entered the 7th month. She wanted to continue, but her belly was too big, making it impossible for me to make love to her without hurting her. That's right, we need to take care of the children. An ultrasound revealed that Carla was expecting twins. She gave birth to 2 beautiful girls as she predicted. Josh wanted a son, so 2 years after the 2 girls were born, she became pregnant again. And this time, the ultrasound showed it was a boy. We made love until her 8th month. Then we broke up. Both of us felt like we had escaped long enough, and if we were caught, Carla would become a single mom with 3 children to care for, and neither of us wanted that. As Carla said, the last time we were together, the goal was to get back at the cheater by letting him raise someone else's child. To do this, I had to continue to live in a marriage with him. Josh got a promotion that required him to move to a new place, and since then, I haven't met or talked to Carla. However, I often think warmly of her. It's been 6 years, and as far as I know, at least based on eavesdropping on the phone, Heather hasn't contacted anyone else. On the contrary, she and Josh have been doing what they've been doing for over a year, and I have no objections. She may enlighten and stop using the home phone for illicit communication, but I am still closely monitoring her without seeing anything that indicates she is trying to sabotage my plans. I am seriously reconsidering the plan to leave her when the children turn 18, which will be 4 more years with Mike and 5 more years with Anna.